I'm Callie Sander. I'm Clay's wife. And on that Sunday, it started off just like any normal day around our house. I had decided to go run some errands that day, and the girls wanted to stay with their dad, and so they got ready for the day, and we left and we went on our ways. Clay and the girls were checking cattle, and we had talked to each other a couple times throughout the day. And on the way home, I called him. I was getting pretty close to home, and he asked me where I was. He told me he had got called out, and I said, I'll be right there. Whenever I got in, he was ready to leave, and he said that there had been another sighting of Michael Vance, and that he was going to work. And I remember Kaya, our 4-year-old, saying, Daddy, don't shoot the bad guy. And she told him that several times, which is, it's odd because he gets called out all the time, and the girls never know where he's going. We don't talk about that. But that particular day, she said a couple times, Daddy, don't shoot the bad guy. The girls and I got around, and we went to my dad's for my little sister's birthday party without him, hoping that he would eventually be able to stop by at some point in the evening. We went in there, and of course I told my grandparents and everybody there where Clay was, and they had asked a few times throughout the night if everything was okay. Of course we thought it was. I remember at one point I hadn't heard from Clay yet, which is normal because when he's at work, I don't bother him. When I'm at work, he doesn't bother me. We don't talk about work at home. We leave work at work. But I remember sitting at the supper table that night, and I just happened to have my phone, and I logged in to Facebook, and what I seen, that there had possibly been a shootout. But of course my heart, it just sank, and I thought, oh, this can't be real. And I text one of the other deputies' wives, and she said, just stay off Facebook, don't get on Facebook. So I didn't, and after supper Clay called me, which is it's so odd because he called me twice that evening, and he assured me that everything was fine, and I was pretty confident that it was fine. I told him on one of our last phone conversations that we had, it was actually about 45 minutes prior to when the shooting actually happened. I said, this guy, he's out to kill law enforcement. He has a high-powered rifle, and whoever he shoots is in trouble. And Clay said, oh yeah, I know.
I'm Commissioner Dillon. I'm currently the chairman of the Board of Commissioners here in this county. Been friends with Clay for a while now, and that night, I've listened to the scanner and knew that they were out working in a perimeter, and they knew that Michael Vance might be in the area, and just on a whim, I called Clay. I was headed down the Leedy anyways. With the suspect in the area, I have a lot of county vehicles parked at my county barn. I wanted to make sure they were all secured. He hadn't taken one. On my way down there, I called Clay to see what was going on, and found out he was riding by himself, working the intersection by himself. And so I asked him if he'd mind if I did a ride along, just so there's two of us there. And he said he was good with that. As I got closer, I called or texted him, I don't remember which, to see if he needed some coffee or anything from the quick stop. And he said he was good, so I pulled over, and I usually have a thermos in my toolbox, and I was digging around looking for it, and I hear him come on the radio saying that he's initiating a traffic stop, and that caught my attention because I knew he wasn't out working traffic. I thought there was probably something going on there, and so I get back in the truck and start heading his direction. And as I'm not very far away, I hear him come on the radio saying there's been shots fired, and he was so cool and laid back about that. I thought somebody else got shot. When he said, there's shots fired, need medical, I'm thinking either he shot somebody, there's another officer there I didn't realize was there, he got shot. There's no way it's him. He's way too calm. And but no, I get there on scene. Sure enough, walking up to the car, Jeremy, the Undersheriff, beat me there by just a few seconds. And I didn't think there was any way. I walked out there and I thought, crap, they just killed our sheriff. Jeremy Rogers, Undersheriff, Dewey County. We were all sitting at the intersection. I don't know, it was probably 8:45 or so. Sheriff Sander got a call, asked us to go spread out down the county roads on 47, that their guys were the U.S. Marshals and the FBI, I guess, were gonna try to flush Vance out using thermals and night vision stuff and running their cars blacked out. We all sat up there, and he said no, he had somebody coming to sit with him, and everybody argued for a while. He said no, it's fine, nothing's gonna happen. So we all finally decided, all right, and we left. I had Stanley Oaks with me. Billy had a trooper followed him. Nathan and Darren they even went farther to the east than what we stopped at Ray, and everybody else went to Burma and farther east on just hitting county roads that we thought he might come out at. 9:43, he calls out that he's stopping a car, and you just knew something wasn't right because he didn't give everything that we give every time we stop a car, which is where you're at, what the tag is. All we got was on track to be out with a vehicle a half a mile south, I think's what he said, of the Leedy Country Store. There was no tag, there was no nothing. And it was just, it's weird, I guess, because you just know something's weird and it's not right. So Stanley looks at me, we're looking at each other, and it's like, man, something's wrong. Because he didn't do anything that is just like policy that it's a tag, it's this, and there was none of that. And I started my Tahoe, and about that time he come on and said that shots were fired and to send an ambulance, and he started giving a description of the vehicle.
I'm Clay Sander, the sheriff of Dewey County. Been the sheriff since 2009, and on October the 30th of 2016, we had another tip that Michael Vance, a person that had been on the run for law enforcement and one of the most wanted people in Oklahoma, was possibly sighted in the Hammond area. I dispatched my guys to the south end of our county, which would butt up to the adjoining county where he was possibly sighted. And a short time later, I rolled in with him. And I called my buddy, who was the sheriff of Ellis County, neighboring county, Shane Booth, and Shane told me that it's 99% sure that it's Michael Vance. Shane and I have been on several calls of reported sightings of Vance, but turned out not to be him. And so when we found out, 99% sure it's him, then everybody kind of picks their guard up a little more receptive to what's going on. So I met with my guys that were at the 3447 junction, which is just south of Leedy. When I pulled up, there was Darren was there, Jeremy was there, Billy, Nathan come along shortly, and Trooper Newcomb was there, and we were discussing how we were going to play out, or what role we needed to play in the manhunt. there was a command center set up in Hammond, and I'd been in contact back and forth with him and on what we needed to do on the north end of what would be the perimeter that Vance was in. So we'd sat around, and we were all at the back of my Tahoe and had popped the hatch, and a caring citizen had brought us all by some potato soup in cups. So we were sitting around eating potato soup, and I had my normal daily vest on that I wear, my bullet resistant vest, and my tactical vest was sitting there in the back of my Tahoe. And the other guys had theirs on, and I thought, I should put mine on. But I decided, I'm probably going to be in the safest place there is. It's a heavy, bulky, tiresome vest to wear, so I didn't put it on and left my daily vest on. So I get a phone call from the command center that said, hey, we're going to spread out from Hammond to the east and work our way towards you guys. Can you guys spread out from that intersection east, and if we flush him out, then your guys will be there and to have that shut off. Sure. So I made my guys double up, and so they were in pairs because I wasn't going to send anybody out by themselves. I had talked to Dillon Barry on the phone, and he wanted to come out and ride along, and I said, sure, I don't have anybody with me, come on. And I knew that some of the other guys were headed up our way, so I wasn't concerned about sitting at the intersection by myself. The guys spread out down the intersection, and I go ahead and close my hatch and sat back in my Tahoe and wait. Well, while we'd been there's probably a dozen people that had stopped by the intersection. Can we get you some coffee, or can we bring you something to eat, or is there anything we can do to help you guys? Because they knew why we were there, and it spread pretty fast that, there's a strong chance that Michael Vance is in this area. So more than happy to help. So it wasn't uncommon for a farmer to drive by. Well, while I'm sitting there, I see a pickup drive by, and it's an older model pickup, flatbed, typical farm vehicle. And it was driving 45, 50 mile an hour. Typical farm vehicle pace. Nothing that drew my attention whatsoever, except it was dragging a chain. Well, I was watching that, and the chain was sparking, and the sparks were making it off into the bar ditch. So I sat there a minute, and I said, that's going to start a fire. And then I know that we'll have Leedy Fire Department, Hammond Fire Department, maybe who all knows, in what's going to be the core of our manhunt area. And there's no way that can be good. We can't have the firemen in the area that we know that Vance is in, because he's shooting or trying to kill everybody he's come in contact with. So I thought the best thing I should do was go and stop that farmer and say, hey, you're dragging the chain. Let's not do that. So I pulled out of the intersection and turned my flashing lights on, my emergency lights, and the farm pickup pulls over to the side of the road. Nothing out of ordinary. Same traffic stop that I've made 1,000 times before. There's no indicator that anything in this traffic stop is different. I'm pulling in behind the vehicle. Our typical procedure is we call out over to our dispatch center over the radio that our unit number, the location, that we're on a traffic stop, and the vehicle tag. So I remember I pick up the microphone and I'm driving towards the vehicle. I'm pretty experienced at this part, so I know when to start. By the time I get to the last of my transmission is when I'm close enough to read the tag. And so I start off at my badge number 2201 to Tologa. Dispatch returns, yes, go ahead, Sheriff. And I said, well, I'm on a traffic stop a half mile south of the 3447 junction, and I'll be out with. And when I get to the width, I look up, and the door is coming open to the pickup. Well, typical farmer is still not that concerned with it, because a lot of them know me or know my deputies, and it's, hey Clay, did I do something wrong, or what's going on? And so while it caught my eye, I didn't feel like I was in danger. But as I went to glance back down at the tag, I saw the barrel of the rifle come out from the door jamb and point at me. I immediately noticed what it was, knew what it was, and didn't finish the transmission. I dropped my microphone.
So we went on with our day at the supper table, and we cleaned up, and we didn't have TVs going. We don't have scanners. But the kids, they just pick up on things. And that week at school, one of my sisters, of course, hearing about this guy at school, she was scared. And I had asked my stepmom, where's Gracie? And she said she was in her room and she was upset. So I went in there and I told Gracie, I said, it's okay, Gracie, I talked to Clay. He's out to protect all of us. He will not let anything happen to any of us. That's why he's here, and that's what he does. I assured her that everything was fine. There was nothing to worry about. Because in my mind, nothing was going to happen. So we walked out of the bedroom, and she was fine. She was laughing. She was smiling. And it was late. It was late. On a normal night, my kids would have been in bed. Our baths would have been taken. I would have been home. Nothing was done. Nothing. But that was okay. I had no worries. I was okay with everything. I was taking my time. My grandparents were still there. Normally, they would have already been on the road. But we finally went to leave. I got the kids in the car, and my phone, it was ringing. And I remember just clicking silence and thinking, oh, I'll call him back when I get on the road. And it rang again, and I had my vehicle in reverse with my two kids, and it was Clay's granddad. And the best I remember him saying, Clay's been hit. And I said, what? He said, Clay's been hit. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he's been shot. And I said, oh my gosh. In my mind, I'm thinking, maybe somebody's been shot, but it's not Clay. There's a misunderstanding somewhere. And after finally realizing that this is real and that Clay really has been shot, wow, I can't even describe the feeling that you actually feel.
I saw Michael Vance. In that time, I saw the barrel and the rifle, and I saw Vance's face, and I knew that I was in a place now that I'm at a disadvantage. I don't have the drop on this deal. I'm behind the curve, and I'm sitting duck. I'm still driving my Tahoe forward towards a guy that's got a gun pointed at me. So I automatically put my foot on the brake, put the vehicle into reverse, and the first bullet hits my vehicle as I'm leaning over in the seat. And I step on the gas to drive in reverse, and you can hear them. You can just hear the gunshots. And of course, it seemed like it took forever. Everything slows down. But the gunshots, you'd hear them boom, and hear them hit my vehicle, boom. And it's just boom, 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 boom. And And I'm used to that sound. I'm used to hearing the gunshot go off, and I'm used to hearing the report from when it hits a target. And I was hearing them both while sitting in my vehicle. And while I'm leaning over to where my console is to get down below the dash, get down to where the motor and engine set, which blocks me from the Vance's gunfire, I look up and I can see the bullets flying through the windshield into the seat where I should be sitting, and there's trails of windshield glass following the bullets. And I couldn't tell if I'm driving in reverse or not. I can't feel it. I can't feel the vehicle moving. So I let off the accelerator and push it down to the floor again, and it jerked. So I knew I'm driving in reverse. Then the first bullet hits me. It hits me right in the shoulder. And I immediately knew what it was. And it felt like somebody hit me with a sledgehammer. And I thought, oh, things are not very good. And so immediately after, the second bullet hits me in the elbow. And my arm is up on the top of the steering wheel, trying to keep my vehicle moving away from Vance. I didn't want to turn loose of the steering wheel and maybe, make a circle and be right back at the guy that's shooting at me. And so then I decided this encounter is not going the way that I need it to go. And I needed to change my tactics. So I thought what to do. And it's amazing in a short amount of time how many thoughts can run through your head, what you can think about, and what decisions you made. I mean, I know it was in less than seconds, but I went through, do I crawl down in the floorboard? Do I try to crawl through the passenger seat and get on the other side? And I just reacted. I said, no, I've got to stop, and I'm taking the fight to him. I'm not going to be on the receiving end of this. So I put the vehicle into park, and I wasn't stopped yet, and I could hear the transmission clinging that it was trying to get into park. And my AR-15 rifle was sitting in the passenger seat, which is now right above my head. And I said, well, that's what I'm using. So I reached for my AR, and I wonder, is my arm that's been shot, is it going to work? I don't know. I felt the things hit. I know it's bleeding. I can feel the warmth of the blood, but I don't know if it's going to work. I assume I'm still holding on to the steering wheel, but it did.
I knew I had to keep it together for my girls. I had my window down because I was telling my grandparents goodbye. Though we were leaving. My grandma was asking me what's going on, and of course I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want my kids to hear what was going on. And Kaya picked up on it, and I stepped out of the vehicle, and Kaya started yelling for her daddy. She just said, I want my daddy, where's my daddy? And so I stepped out and I went around to the other side of the car, and I just heard her yelling, and I couldn't leave her in there to cry. So I went back around and I got her out, and I held her, and I gave her to my grandparents. And at this point, I'm not really sure who was around. My family, all the rest of my family had came out of the house. They got Callie out of the car. I remember I got back in my car, just sitting there. Before I knew it, I was sitting on top of my console. It's just a moment that you can't even describe. I didn't know if he was okay. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know if our other guys were okay, because we're all family. And and I'm close to all their wives.
And as I set up, I grabbed my rifle. I was able to open the passenger door, or the driver's door, and hold my rifle up with my arm and return fire back at Vance. As I was going out of the vehicle, I don't know why, but I stuck the rifle up over the dash, and I don't remember if I thought that I was going to stick it through one of the bullet holes or if I stuck it through one of the bullet holes, but I returned fire back through him through my windshield on the way out. And when I got out, I got into the V of the door, I picked my rifle up, and Vance who was out of the vehicle whenever I was coming to get out of my vehicle, had now got back into the driver's side and was leaning out. So he was partially in the vehicle and partially out. So I thought, to myself, take your time, make good shots. And so I did. I pulled up to my sights. I made shots that I thought were good shots, that were kill shots, that the things that would end this fight. And they didn't. He after I started shooting, it wasn't effective. And so as the rifle goes off, it jerks around through the recoil, and I see the back glass, and I said, well, I'm going for that. So I pulled up and shot for the back glass, and that's when Vance basically took off. And so my rifle, I had it in my left hand, I got back into the Tahoe and put it in drive, stepped on the gas, nothing happened. So I knew that then my fight with Vance was finished. I need to let everybody else know.
Whenever he said that, hey, stop in this car, then when you hear shots fired, send an ambulance here. And we took off, and I apologize. I need to go apologize to that lady because I'm sure she got rocks all over her house. He would not respond to anything on the radio because we don't know what he's doing. We can't, it's not like we don't know if he's swapping channels or if he's doing what he was doing. I was yelling and asking him if he was 10-2, which is, are you okay? Are you good? Everything's kosher. And I couldn't get a response. Man, your heart freaking sinks because you're thinking the very, very worst at that point because, for one, he's called for an ambulance. Two, you're not getting a response for anything. Come to find out he was swapping channels and talking to other people and telling them what was going on. But we didn't know that, and he couldn't get his radio back to the right channel due to everything all over the top of it. He said, man, I was trying to wipe it off, and I just couldn't get it wiped off. So me and Stanley are just sitting there just like, oh, shit. This is bad. This is really bad. And no response whatsoever the entire time. And it only took us 4 minutes, maybe. From Ray to get to where he was at. And that whole time you can only think of the worst. Holy crap. Did he catch one good? Is he unconscious in his car? Then when you get there and he's sitting there and he starts talking crap, you're like, oh hell. But it is the most gut-wrenching feeling to not be able to get an answer from somebody when you know something bad's going on. And it's not like he doesn't answer radio when you ask him, whenever you're talking to him. We just got nothing. I mean, it was dead silence. We're not picking up anything from any of the other counties, nothing. And it was like, oh crap, this is the one. But you get knotted up bad, and you get super anxious, and your adrenaline's flowing, and people are driving into your stuff, and yeah, it was horrible. It was probably one of the most, I can say it's the second most awful night I've ever had to deal with him. So, as bad as that sounds.
So I put it back in park, picked up the radio microphone and radioed to my dispatch center that there's shots fired, that I needed medical, and the encounter was with Michael Vance. Gave the description of the pickup, and they gave the description that he was dragging a chain, and the chain is obviously sparking. I then turned to Roger Mills County's frequency, which is the county in which the command post was set up in, and gave their information, their dispatch center, the same information, and asked them to dispatch the ambulance. Roger Mills County dispatches the leading ambulance. And while I was doing that, I leaned over to change the channels, and of course I was a bloody mess. Well, blood covers my radio. So I'm trying to turn it back to my home frequency, which I can hear Jeremy, my undersheriff, he's hollering on the radio, 2201, my badge number, are you 10-2? Which means, are you okay? And it increased. 1, are you 10-2? 1, are you 10-2? And I can't change the radio back to our frequency. I can't read the screen. I'm trying to wipe the blood off the screen to change it, but as soon as I wipe it, more blood gets on it, and I finally give up. I'm like, all right, he'll be here in a minute. So I step back in the seat, and my rifle, I find the pain finally hits me in my arm, and I drop my rifle. So it's laying in the road right outside my door. And I pick up my pistol and I set it on my lap in case Vance comes back. And so to me, it didn't seem like less than a minute. Jeremy and Stanley shows up, and Dillon shows up. And Jeremy walks up there, and it's a quick walk, but it's a hesitant walk. It's one of those, I need to get there to see what's going on, but I don't want to see what's going on. And so he gets up, and, Clay, you all right? You all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It's like, and you can see the look on his face, like, no, something's not fine. He's like, no, I'm not fine. He's like, where you hit? I said, in the arm. And he's like, well, I can see that. I said, yeah, he got me twice in the arm. He's like, anywhere else? I said, no, nowhere else. He's like, well, I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna have to fill you up because I have to make sure you're not hit anywhere else. I said, it hurt bad enough that I know where I was hit.
When we rolled the corner, all you see is his Tahoe sitting there, no suspect vehicle. There's smoke coming out of the front of it, the back glass is blowed out. The driver's door's open. The back hatch was for the window. It's got that little wing looking thing on the back of it. It was popped up. The gate wasn't open. It was just that one part of it was popped up. And actually, can't see him. And all you think of is, I see his gun sitting out there. His gun's laying next to his Tahoe. And that's whenever you just kind of, oh shit. You knew it went south really, really fast. And as weird as it is, I can tell you which way his gun was pointed, that the ejection port was down. I mean, why, I don't know. But that's the first thing that I could see was whenever we rolled the corner and we started up on his car. Like I said, there's glass everywhere. It's smoking. Its front tire's blowed out of it. And his gun's laying out there, and I can't see him. So you don't know if... And we're all thinking, hey, he made it around passenger side and got, used his car, and he's nowhere. So, yeah, that was probably the one moment that is my buddy not there, because you can't see him, and you see his car, and it is riddled with holes. They say because when you're pulling up to it, you can see the rounds that had went through the windshield. His headlights were still on. I mean, you can see. I was like, oh poop, this is not the best day. So yeah,
he's pretty laid back. Got there, Jeremy asked me if I had any water for Clay, and I didn't have any in the truck, so I ran back to the corner store and got him some water. When I got back, Clay was telling the other deputies to go ahead and go on a look for Vance. Jeremy and I stayed there with him, and as we discussed it, and we heard the other deputies on the radio saying that they couldn't find him. They met the troopers coming from the south, and they didn't know where Vance was, and he turned off somewhere, and they weren't sure, and they were looking for him. Jeremy and I decided he may be coming back this way, and if he does, he's probably going to shoot at us again. And so Jeremy found an extra set of body armor for me, and I got strapped up and got my rifle, and he stood kind of right by Clay, kind of between him and the highway, and I stood by the corner of the vehicle, and we just watched every vehicle coming by, just trying to see if we could identify the pickup or see if we could see a gun.
We went back to where he was. He said we didn't see him in the car. Neither one of us could see him. But the door was open. I thought, oh crap, he's going to be on the passenger side of his car, back by the back. That's why we can't see him. And we go down in the ditch, and nope, he's still sitting in the driver's seat, leaning on the console. And he said, that guy, he said, I got shot again. I was like, oh crap. I said, where did you get hit? You could see the one in his elbow. That was pretty apparent, because it was just like bone sticking down there. The one in his arm, he said, man, I got hit up here too. And I asked him, did you get hit anywhere else? And he's like, no. And I said, well, you're not going to like this, but we're going to pull your vest and we're going to see.
But from what he saw, it's when the bullet struck my shoulder, it exploded everything that was there. So there's blood and tissue and everything that's all over the Tahoe. There's blood all over the door from where I was using it when I was returning fire to Vance. There's blood all over the seat and the floorboard where I was leaning in to talk back on the radio. So the scene was pretty atrocious. I mean, it looked bad. So he gets a vest off of me, and everybody else starts showing up, and I tell him, I'm fine. You guys go catch the son of a bitch that shot me. And so hesitantly, but of course willingly, they're going to go take that fight. And so they take off after they stop long enough to make sure that Clay's probably going to be okay.
I went out, and I can't remember at this point at what point this was, but I did call our undersheriff's wife and our deputy's wife, who I'm really good friends with. And the deputy's wife, she said, Callie, are you sure? Are you sure this is right? And I said, I don't know. This is just what they're telling me. So at that point, I got my phone rang again, and it was Jeremy's cell phone number. And it was Clay, and I just remember thinking, oh, you have to stay calm. You have to stay calm. So as calm as possible, I answered the phone, and it was Clay, and he said, hey, it's me. You would have never have thought much was wrong with him by the tone of his voice. He said, I've been shot again, but I'm okay. And that was the greatest sound in the world, just to know and hear his voice.
So the ambulance gets there, and I know the people on the ambulance, and they're bringing the gurney to the Tahoe. I'm not riding on the gurney. I may be injured, but I'm not dying. And so I told him, no, I won't ride on that. I'm going to walk to the ambulance. I said, no, Clay, you've got to ride on this gurney. So I'm not riding on it. I'll walk to the ambulance. I'm shot in the arm. We'll be fine. And so through the whole time, I try to keep my composure and my calm, because how I act in that situation dictates how my people respond. And so It hurt. It hurt pretty bad. But I'm not going to show that. We're going to cut up and we're going to have jokes and everybody know that Clay's going to be okay and go do your jobs. So finally, when I got on the ambulance, I could lay down and relax a minute and figure out what's going on. But one of the even while before the ambulance got there, I knew that my family, they all have scanners. And they're listening to what's going on. So I know that my family knows that I've been shot. I know that shortly my wife's going to find out, who has my children. And so I want to be the first person that calls and tells her, hey, I'm fine. So that probably pack a bag and come to the hospital. I'm going to be in there a couple of days, but I'm fine. Everything will be all right. So I called her, and the guys couldn't find my phone in the mess that my Tahoe was in. So Jeremy provided me his phone and dialed the number for me. And when I answered, I could tell she had already knew that I'd been shot. I could hear it in her voice, and she was trying to be tough. And I told her, I said, hey, Callie, I'm fine. I got shot in the arm, and they're going to take me to the hospital and just get some stuff around and come down. And I know that by calling her and reassuring her, she's able to take care of the things that she needed to take care of to come and take care of me. I've been in this whole shooting situation before, unfortunately.
Yeah, and shut the damn Tahoe off. It's going to catch on fire. I'm like, will it move? I don't think so. Does your arm hurt? Uh-huh. It's bad that I joke with him about it, but you know, how do you look at your buddy that's sitting in his chair and he's covered with blood and missing part of an arm, and he's in there like, well, damn, I guess I need to call my wife. So at that point, I knew he was going to be okay. So I started joking, and like I say, he wanted his hat real bad, and I couldn't let him put his hat on with that big chunk of glass stuck in top of his head. I probably stuck out half an inch or so. Like, probably not the best doctor move I've ever done. But if he was going to put his hat on, that might have killed him. Saved his life.
He said that they were going to area vacuum to the city, and I said, okay, we're headed there. We got as much as we could together, got my kids loaded back up. My dad, he wanted to drive me. And I told him, I can drive, I can do this. I don't want anything to be abnormal for my kids. I want this to be as normal as possible, and if you're driving, Dad, they're going to know something's wrong. So I started off driving. A few times back home, Dad asked me if I was okay. Yeah, I'm fine. My insides were just shaking. And we got almost to Cestus, and I told Dad, I can't do it. I can't. And so I pulled over, and Dad drove the rest of the way. We ran to my house and just threw a few things in a bag, the have-to haves. And one of our deputies' wives met me there, and she rode with us to the hospital. And on the way, I kept getting mixed. He was going to the city, or they're putting him on a two-wing plane, or they're area vacuuming him, or area vac can't fly, or they're leaving him at Elk City. I was getting all kinds of information, and I had no idea. But what's really scary is I work the EMS, so I know. Why wouldn't area vac be flying? It seemed like a normal night, but at the same time, you forget in a state of panic like that. I knew that if they were taking him inside of the hospital, they're delaying time, so therefore it's because they can't get him stable now. You know, anything could happen when someone's in shock and they call you. But then I was being told that they were going to put him on a 2-wing plane, and I knew that if that's the case, then that couldn't be good either. So we decided to go ahead and take the highway to the interstate, and by the time we reached the interstate, we could go one way or the other. And we headed towards Elk City to the hospital.
And so it's the time that it took to get to the hospital was the reflection on wow, how bad that could have been. At that point, I didn't know how many shots were fired. I didn't know how many shots I had returned. When your adrenaline's running, those are things you don't keep up. I know that there's a lot, and I knew that Michael Vance's intentions when I pulled up there was to kill me. He didn't know it was Clay Sander. He didn't care who it was. It was whoever that peace officer was that was stopping him is going to die. He's leaving. And so people say, Clay, you're lucky. God was with you. Jesus was with you. And that's true. That is true. But I didn't survive the encounter with Michael Vance. I won the encounter with Michael Vance. And so that's how I see it. His intentions was that he's going to kill me. He didn't get that done. I may have not been able to kill him, and his fate happened to work out just a short time later. But his goal in this fight was to kill that police officer that's stopping him. He didn't do that. Not only did he not kill me, I won that. I returned fire and caused him, because if he truly wanted to die, if that was his intentions, he was going to go out in a blaze of glory. At that point, my returning fire to him was enough for him to say, I don't want to die, and he left. I won that fight. And so that's easier, not easier, it's how I see it. And so to say, Clay, you survived a deadly encounter. No, I won a deadly encounter. I didn't survive it. I won it. My actions and reactions and thought processes and things that I needed to do to win that fight were not to survive that fight. It was to win that fight.
So we got to the hospital, and it was lined with law enforcement. I got out and grabbed Kaya, and we went in. And we walked in to see Clay, and he looked really good. They had a white sheet over him, and he had some blood on his forehead, but they said, we tried to clean him up. And I walked around to the other side of him, and I thought, oh my gosh. So I had to get Kaya out of there, hoping that she didn't see his wounds. So I took her out, and I came back in, and I asked him, are you sure you're capable of helping him here? Are you sure he doesn't need to be transferred out? And they assured me that they could handle it. And so it wasn't much longer. They wheeled him back for surgery. I stayed with him until they did take him back. And then we went to the waiting room, and we waited a long 3.5 hours for him to get out of surgery. And the doctors came, the surgeon, he came out after it was over and told me that he done very well, gave me details of everything. And then I was walking down, there's a pretty long hall, and I heard someone yelling my name. And I turned around, and it was the surgeon and the chief of police from Elk City. And they said, it's okay, everything's fine, we just need to talk to you. And so I met with them, and they said, there's something we've been talking to each other, and we need to talk to you about. I said, okay. I said, we know you have a lot right now going on, but we've been talking, and we think that you need to transfer him out. I said, why? why. I'm thinking the hard part's over. And they said because of the media. I thought, could it really be that bad? But they talked to me for a while, and I asked, what would you do if you were me? It's a big decision to make. And they told me, get the hell out of here. I thought, oh no. Is he even capable of riding in an ambulance after all of that? And they said yes. They would take him somewhere. He would be listed under an alias where we wouldn't be bothered, and people would leave us alone so he could start his recovery. So I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I tried to talk to Clay the best I could. You know, he kept being interrupted, and I went back in there and I said, listen, let's stay here. They seem amazing. They've welcomed us with open arms. I don't think we could be anywhere better than where we are right now. If the media bothers us, we'll handle that as the time comes. And so we agreed, and that's what we did, and it all worked out. It all worked out. Kaya was there with us at the hospital, and she wouldn't leave. She wouldn't leave the hospital. She stayed every day, every night. She wouldn't even leave with family to go to the park or to go get a drink. She wanted right there by the both of us. It's a lot for a little 4-year-old to deal with. But my main focus is trying to keep my family together the best that I can, and try to assure my girls that it's going to be okay. It's definitely a phone call that you never want to get. This has been much harder, much tougher than the first time that he got shot.
You know, afterwards I thought, what would it have been like if all the guys were there? If we would all still been sitting at that intersection and a guy with a chain came through, which didn't rouse my attention, I wouldn't have been the one that made that stop. I would have sent somebody else to go make it. And would they have handled the situation as well as I did? I would like to hope so. I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that the training that we do and the things that we discuss and practice and the mindsets that happen in those kind of confrontations would have held true, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out. I know that any peace officer that was there that night or across the entire country would gladly take my place or would want to have been there with me. Every one of them. So to say, Clay, you're a hero, or Clay, your actions were heroic, or anything like that, that's no more than every police officer that was out there that night. Because it doesn't matter who it was, sheriffs, deputy sheriffs, troopers, game wardens, Department of Ag, all those guys were out there in that same area knowing that if they encountered Michael Vance, it was going to be a fight for life or death. So everybody there is, if I'm a hero, they're a hero. And everybody was prepared to do what I had to go through. So I take it as a testament to what kind of law enforcement we have in our area. And I know that all of them, you know, you were even at the corner. Clay, we shouldn't have left you. Clay, I should have been there. Clay, things work out how they work out. If somebody was supposed to have been there with me, they would have been there. I think now, if somebody had been riding with me, I don't know that it would turn out as well. I don't know that there's room enough for me and somebody else to both be behind the engine block to shield from bullets. If Dillon had made it there, neither one of us were in protective gear that would have stopped the rounds from an AK-47. I mean, my vest will stop rounds from pistol, those type of things, which is normally what we would encounter, but not AK-47 rounds. I didn't take the time to put my tactical vest on, which probably would have saved my shoulder. Looking back, I wish I would have done that differently, but maybe if I had it on, I wouldn't have been mobile enough to get out of the way of the bullets, and the only thing that I sacrificed was my shoulder. So I think everything works out how it's supposed to. And yeah, sure, I wish that I hadn't been shot, because it's not necessarily a pleasant deal. And Michael Vance sealed his own fate. That's nothing that anybody can change. And if I could go back and change anything, would I? I don't know that I would. I'm sure my wife would probably disagree with that, but she's a strong woman too. She's had to deal with me being shot before, so to call her and say, yeah, I got shot again. Okay, Clay, where are you going? So that's a process we've been through, but I don't think I would change anything. It played out how it should have, and I think probably if I would have had my other vest on, then I may not have been able to dodge the bullets that were intended to kill me. It's always a bad feeling, like when I was pulling up behind Vance, to know that I'm the one that's reacting now to what he's trying to do. I didn't have the upper hand, and that's one thing that I try to teach through all my guys, is maintain the upper hand, maintain that element of surprise, all those things, and I didn't have it. I was in reaction. I was the one that got jumped by the surprise. And so I'm glad that I was able to react. I was glad that I was able to maintain my composure and do the things that eventually led to the fate of Michael Vance.
I remember when he was sitting there, and we're kind of trying to keep the bleeding down, and kind of talking to him a little bit, looking down and seeing nickel-plated 5.56 casings laying on the ground, and realizing, my Clay got some shots off. I was just so proud. I was like, that's so much fired back. Look at that, we're returning fire. That's a good deal. That's a good feeling, because I knew Vance had an AK-47. I could see his casings out there on the highway, so it was a really good feeling to know that there had been a little bit of return fire, and that it also made me feel better about Clay's condition. When I'm standing there with Jeremy, he's telling me, well, he got hit in the arm, but I didn't know. I didn't know that Clay was conscious enough to know exactly where all he'd been hit, and so we're still pretty concerned. And the fact that he was able to get out and return fire told me maybe he's going to be okay. But that was. Not something we really want to do again, but probably least of all Clay.
I have comfort in knowing that night, majority of the people in the state of Oklahoma took a sigh of relief that Michael Vance isn't in their garage, isn't in their backyard, isn't driving up next to them at the stop sign, isn't going to try to steal their vehicle at the convenience store. So that part was reward enough, knowing that from what I had to go through, everybody else could take that sigh of relief and sleep better. Granted, my wife and family didn't sleep better, but they know that I'm okay, and they appreciate and support what I do, and it was a relief to them also.
I haven't still had a chance to sit down and just think about everything, or to even talk to Clay about it. But I did go look at his unit on Wednesday, and that was tough. that was really tough. I never was upset or angry. I guess I never had time to think about it until I looked at that, and God was definitely with him, or we wouldn't have him. That shooter had every intention to kill my husband that night, and you can't even, it's hard to think or understand how somebody can be so evil. He didn't stop. I mean, he shot 27 rounds. Every shot was a shot to kill. I try to think about Clay that night. You know, what was he thinking? Or just trying to think of everything that he went through, and it's hard. It's just something that I wouldn't wish upon anybody to ever have to go through. But the community, the entire state of Oklahoma has been so supportive, and it's really helped out. Every card, the cards from the kids to Clay, it all helps. It all helps.
I know, and I don't know how it all played out. I got to watch the video from the press release, and some of the troopers that were involved in the last shootout with Michael Vance, I consider close friends of mine. But I know that the description that I gave out on Vance's vehicle, and the fact that he was dragging a chain that was sparking, which, you know, that narrows it down to a very particular vehicle that the helicopter could see. And the helicopter, right before my incident with Vance, they were having to leave because they were low on fuel. And so after they heard what happened to me, those guys low on fuel, knowing that they probably wouldn't make it back to Elk City to refuel, stayed here to help find and track down Vance. And he was spotted, and a pursuit and happened after that, and he ran a roadblock, and it ended up to be a shootout, basically. I would assume that possibly Vance had some kind of training, because majority of people wouldn't use your vehicle for cover like he did during the shootout, and those sort of things. And just as much as he was trying to kill me, when he stopped to fight, his intentions were to take out as many people as he could with him. And he didn't know it was troopers. As far as he knew, it was any peace officer that was out there, and it could have been any peace officer that was out there. And so when that gunfire erupted, those guys reacted in the best possible way that they could, and I appreciate their service and what they did to seal Vance's fate. I wish I was able to participate in that during my encounter, so it didn't put their lives in danger, but that's not how it worked out. And they put themselves in the line of fire to protect all of us. And so I'm very thankful for every peace officer that was there that night, every peace officer that responded.
A lot of people complain about law enforcement, but I feel like we're so lucky to have the law enforcement that we have in Northwest Oklahoma. I definitely feel like we have some of the best. We're all family here. We're all close. We have suppers together. We have holidays together. We're close. We're a family, and that definitely helps get through times like this.
You know, it's really heartwarming after the fact to know how much support that law enforcement in our part of the woods is really appreciated by the community. There's been an outpouring. I still today am returning messages that I got from when I was in the hospital. I try to pick a few every day and return them, thank you for your support. But I still haven't got them all returned. So I appreciate and thank every person for supporting us, because it's the people that we work for. It's the people that we protect. And we do that at the risk of not going home at night. We go out and protect their families while my family's sitting at home, wondering if I'm okay. And of course, every time I leave the house, I'll be back in a little bit. Everything will be fine. I love you, and I'll see you in a little bit. And I'm going to make it home. And so, whatever the fight is, I told her and my family I'll make it home, and I'll be home. This instance, it took me a couple days to get there, but I made it home. So, but I'm really appreciative of the support of the community, and that makes us feel like the job that we're doing is worth it.